Miami Hurricanes not only have a huge opportunity on the field against Notre Dame, but off the field. They will have more than 100 recruiting visitors, dozens of blue chippers. It's time to close.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and host of Postgame on the Miami Hurricanes radio network. And thank you to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this episode, we'll get thoughts from our guests on Notre Dame, Miami's keys to this game, outlook on the season coming up. I think it's college football playoff or bust for the Canes this year. A Miami Hurricanes verbal commit absolutely dominated his high school game last night. We got to get a renewed scouting report on JV and Mallory because, boy, has he looked good. And the recruiting section, Miami versus Notre Dame on Sunday, is going to be absolutely loaded. So we bring on the man we call the recruiting overlord, host of The Portal on the Locked On Network. Brian Smith is with us. Brian, talk about this opportunity? And obviously it would help if Miami wins the game, but having over 100, most of them blue chip recruits in the building, you don't get opportunities like this every week.
This is about as good as it gets. It's not an every year game, but yet it's still a rival. It's on your home field. It's game one. There's really not a better way to put it than saying that's awesome. You know what I mean? 100 plus. Mario and his staff do a great job. Everybody in the back office deserves credit. But this is like you said in the opening, this is closing time. If you want to make your program go to that next level, you got to reel in the elite players. And they're getting them on the campus and they're getting them to Hard Rock. Now they just got to close. So it's a great opportunity for the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, there's not only going to be class of 2026 players, but 2027s, a lot of 2028s as well. But in terms of class of 2026, Miami has, top 10 class, but most of the players that they're still after are committed to other programs, players that they're looking to flip. And let me run down some of the flip candidates that are going to be at the game. Chaminade running back DERREK Cooper is committed to Texas. Defensive back Justice FITZPATRICK from St. Thomas, who's committed to Georgia. Calvin Russell, Miami Northwestern receiver, is committed to Syracuse. Defensive lineman Nolan Wilson out of Mississippi, who's committed to Alabama. Miami Northwestern defensive lineman James Johnson, JJ, who's committed to Texas now. IMG running back Lakai Tompkins, who's committed to Louisville. Ponte Vedra Beach, Nice high school linebacker Jacob Curry. Actually, he just decommitted from Northwestern before this weekend. Miami Northwestern safety Tadarius Hughes, who's committed to Florida State. American Heritage linebacker Kaimani Morales, who's committed to Georgia Tech. Let me actually start with you, Brian, because you also host Locked On Seminoles. So Tadarius Hughes, any smoke there that he may not stick in Florida State's class?
I've heard that smoke from a long way away for a long time, that he's still at least entertaining other opportunities. Syracuse is involved. I'm sure Miami fans are tired of hearing that name. Until he's openly closing it down, you got to think that he's a possible flip. I think he wants to see it from Florida State, and who can blame him after last season? So if he doesn't end up with the Noles, would it shock me? Absolutely not. So Florida State, you got to keep recruiting him. Miami, though, he's in your backyard. If I was him, even if I knew I was going to Florida State, I'd go to this game. He lives right down the road. Why not go to the game and just have a good time? So that's the other thing. So I don't know if Miami's prioritized him as much as Syracuse has, but I think he's really good. So for Florida State's sake, they need to figure out a way to get him up to Tallahassee soon, because they're not the greatest team in the world on defense. They got some talent, but they need guys like him to kind of change their program. But Miami does too. They both need defensive back safeties in particular for the Canes in this class. I think that would help them close it out. Wouldn't be surprised to see Miami make a charge here.
All right, speaking of Syracuse, Calvin Russell,
Oh,
five-star Miami Northwestern receiver. He's going to be at this game, Syracuse commit. Now, Brian, probably every couple weeks I see this come up, stories getting written on 24/7 where they always put Calvin Russell in like their flip watch category. But part of
yeah.
me feels like I just think the national guys have a hard time believing he sticks with Syracuse because, like, from where I sit, I heard his NIL offer from there was probably higher than anywhere else. I'm not saying that's the only reason, because I also think he has a legitimate bond and affection for Fran Brown. So I don't know. Do you feel like Calvin Russell is really a flip candidate, or are people just speculating like, how can he stay with Syracuse?
I think part of that appeal is the basketball aspect of it. They were one of the first teams to really pitch that. And for those that don't know, he's a legit basketball player. He's really good. But I think the Fran Brown thing is the bigger. For those that don't know, Fran just enjoys getting to know young people and building relationships. So while Miami makes sense on a lot of levels, they're not as thrilled about the basketball thing from what I've heard. And I'm sure he knows that. But Florida State or Michigan or LSU or whatever, all these schools would take his call. I think he's overwhelmed, but Fran did the best job of recruiting him. I think Miami will be in it till the end. And on signing day, we'll probably talk about him to open the day. That is my prediction. That's my guess. So Miami getting him back on campus, though, shows that he's got a relationship with Miami beyond just like NIL or anything like that. He's not going to suffer any fools because 50 schools would love to have him. He's only talking to a handful, really. Miami's one of those. So this weekend's pretty important for the Canes with regards to Calvin.
I would say one of the positions that it's hardest to consistently recruit blue chip guys would be defensive tackle. Like, they're just like 5-star DTs just do not grow on trees. So I want to ask you about James Johnson, who he's already flipped once. He was committed to Georgia. He flipped to Texas. JJ, who plays, in Miami now, and Northwestern, moved over from the West Coast of Florida recently. He's going to be at this game. I mean, could you see him, Brian, possibly flipping for a second time in this cycle and maybe winding up being a Hurricane?
Wouldn't surprise me in the least. I think he's a kid that NIL is a bigger factor than with some other kids. And I also think that he, kind of like Calvin, was overwhelmed with how much attention he got, partially talent. And the point you made is the other one. There just aren't enough defensive tackles, Alex. You and I talk about that on air and off air. There's not enough of them. So you're paying a premium for the position. It's just true. Like, you can get 10 offensive guards, similar talent maybe to a defensive tackle, but the defensive tackle commands twice the price because they're just supply and demand issues. I'm curious how much Miami really goes after him, because everybody I've spoken to and those around Miami too think this is a down D tackle year. Johnson is one of the highest rated guys. Like, Texas really wanted him. I wonder if this just ends up being a bidding war or if there's something else. I don't know who's got the best relationship with him, but he can go pretty much wherever he wants. So this is one to keep an eye on. Obviously, Miami's more local. That would be the other thing. Maybe he wants to, in the end, to stay with family. Keep an eye on Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, and for the reason of the position he plays and how good he is, I think he may be like the number one most important flip target. But for other reasons, DERREK Cooper, who's going to be in the building, Brian, I mean, super important. One of the best players in the state of Florida, plays not far from Miami at Chaminade Madonna. He's committed to Texas. What's been the noise there? I mean, does Miami actually have a chance maybe to flip him before signing day?
I was surprised he was coming to the game, to be honest with you, because, you and I talked about this before he ended up pledging to Sark and the Longhorns. They really surged, and he could have committed to Miami forever. And he lives down the road, so it's easy for him to get to Coral Gables relative to traffic in Miami. That's another subject, but he's committed to Texas. Like, why commit there then visit again? So I don't know if he's confused or if he just really wants to just go to the game. But I found that a little surprising. I thought that he wouldn't go because he's finally done with it. DERREK's a pretty quiet kid. Like, he's always respectful of everybody in the media. He's always been nice to me and everybody else I've been around. I just figured he'd be done. So now I'm not sure what's going on. Is this legit? Him going to the game at least opened your eyes. Texas obviously has success at about every position. They're well coached and all that. He's going to get development there. But Maybe he wants to be a tag team opportunity with Mallory. You never know.
Well, when we come back, there are some 2027s that I want to talk about with Brian, including Nick Lanier, who's, one of my favorite wide receivers in that class. And man, we got to talk about JV and Mallory absolutely dominating yesterday. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started with the recruiting overlord on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Folks, it is not too late to get your last minute tickets. In fact, it's not even really last minute yet. You have until Sunday on Game Time, and the deals get better the closer you get to kickoff. I was looking yesterday at tickets for Miami hosting Notre Dame at under $200. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. Tailgates, rivalries, the energy. There's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to us, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. Probably my favorite thing about Game Time. What you see is what you pay. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code Locked On College for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Download Game Time today. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. Hey, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. And thank you for helping us out. Got the recruiting overlord, Brian Smith, with us. All right, so Brian, another top Miami Northwestern wide receiver, Nick Lanier, class of 2027. Some people think he might even be better than Calvin Russell. But I know Syracuse has also been in the mix for Lanier. I know they want to keep him and Russell together if possible. What's the latest on his recruitment as he is going to be at this game on Sunday?
This is a kid that I love. I think that he is the personification of what South Florida receivers have been over the last 40 years, going back to Michael Irvin. Makes you miss. He's an excitable kid. He lets you know about it. He's a playmaker. I think he's just tremendous. That's first off. I think he's a top 100 recruit, and Miami would be foolish to let him out of their backyard. That's first off. But as you noted, Syracuse and the free world is after him. I don't know if he's really got a top list. I'm sure he's probably put out something, but everybody wants Lanier. So I need to see more. I'm curious. I'd like to talk to him after the game or get some intel on what happened, because Miami needs to get some momentum with South Florida kids in the 27 class. And they just started. Like, they've done way better in 27 for some reason than 26. I don't know what the deal is. It's odd. Can they get him to jump into the boat? Because if they do, that would really help the Canes. Maybe that's the plan, but he's got so many options, Alex. This game's important. He probably wants to see, okay, how's Miami going to do this? They don't have Cam Ward anymore. I get it, but they do have a really good quarterback. So I'm sure he wants to see the game up close and get, Notre Dame's got a good defense. This is a chance for Miami to sell him, so he doesn't take all those visits, because I'm sure Syracuse is trying to get him come up to one of the games at the Dome. Keep an eye on his unofficial visit list after this one.
All right, so another top 2027 South Florida receiver, Julius Jones Jr. from St. Thomas Aquinas, is going to be at this game. But, Brian, is this more of a Notre Dame visit for him than a Miami visit? Because he's a legacy. His dad played for the Fighting Irish. So does Miami have a legit shot here, or is he there to see Notre Dame?
I mean, he wants to see Notre Dame too, but he's legitimately very interested in Miami. The last time I spoke with Julius a few months ago, by the way, he's a great guy. He said that he's got a tremendous relationship with the Miami staff. It's pretty tight. I was like, okay, then they have, once you got the relationship thing, you've got a shot. Notre Dame, Oregon, the Florida schools in general, the big three, maybe Ohio State or something like that. It's going to be a national battle, but LSU's in there. there's a lot of programs involved, but Miami's towards the top. I was a little surprised. Again, his dad played for Notre Dame. So he's played for the Irish, played for the Cowboys, for the Seahawks, and I think he finished with the Saints. But Julius wants to look at it from his own perspective, and he's okay with creating his own path. And we're talking about a national top 50 kind of recruit. I saw him in Under Armour Future 50. This kid is not going to sit the bench at Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, or anywhere else. He's an NFL player. So it would be big for Miami to get another South Florida kid, and he's teammates with Mark Matthews, who's maybe the best offensive tackle in the class of 27, another STA kid. So there's all kinds of connections with that one. Very important recruitment for a lot of schools, and great kid.
Let me actually go back. Let me rewind to 2026. I know we talked about a couple of 2027s there because there's one more flip target for 2026 that I want to get your take on, Brian, and that's he's committed to Georgia. Defensive back Justice Fitzpatrick out of St. Thomas. Now it's interesting. I know Miami's really been after him. You know, his brother Minka is back with the Miami Dolphins now, for what that's worth, but his older brother played at Bama, and Justice is committed to Georgia. Now, you know, I think before training camp started, there seemed to be maybe a little bit of smoke that Miami's really pushing to flip Justice. You know, the smoke maybe quieted down, but I think partly it's because fall camp started and everyone sort of shifted their focus more back to football over recruiting. But I mean, what have you been hearing about Justice Fitzpatrick? And do you think, and Miami's already flipped guys from Georgia in this cycle, right, so it wouldn't be the first?
I think there's a better chance, honestly, because of what you said about his brother and everything being South Florida. The biggest hang up, from what I remember, the guy that his older brother played with as coaching staff, etc., some of those guys at Bama are now at Georgia. There's a family bond there, which I totally get. Obviously, his brother got coached well. He's one heck of a defensive back. But Miami now has had the opportunity to have him on campus multiple times. It's closer to home. And Miami is a lot better program than when his brother was. Let's just be honest. They're a much better program now than when his brother was being recruited. It's not competitive. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. And again, it depends on how you want to view him. I think long-term he'd be better at safety. Some like him at corner, but whatever. He's a freaky athlete, and he's 6'1". You're always going to take those kind of kids, especially if they're coached by Roger Harriet and those guys at STA. You're getting the right kind of guys. So I haven't heard anything as far as a timeline on a flip or anything. Like STA kids, you don't get as much usually. But him visiting again and him being committed to Georgia makes me wonder. Because like the Georgia kids usually don't take as many visits other places. You know, yeah. Kirby usually gets them pretty locked in. This will be a very interesting recruitment, and I'm curious if he takes any other trips. Is Florida State or Bama or anybody else there too? I'm curious to see what Fitzpatrick does.
All right, so Brian, I couldn't help but notice that one of Miami's verbal commits for 2026, and I believe this player is going to be at the game on Sunday as well, Javian Mallory, committed Miami running back. He plays for West Boca. Absolutely went off on Thursday night against Palm Beach Central. West Boca wins the game 50-7, and Mallory was probably the biggest part of that win. I'm not sure about the official stats, but I was seeing possibly 150 rushing yards for Mallory, scored 3 touchdowns in the game. One of those was a 60-yarder. I mean, he absolutely took over. So I'd love to kind of revisit your scouting report for a guy who's going to be in Miami's backfield next year.
Yeah, Mallory, first off, great young man, very respectful. He was always good with us in the media, and I think that usually shows well at the next level because they're more coachable. Because a lot of kids with offers like Javian did early, like he got a bunch. Sometimes they get big-headed. That doesn't end up staying on the tracks. He's done all the right things. He's headed in the right direction there. So Miami's getting a good player on their team. As far as his style of play, he's all-encompassing. He's probably the best way to define him. He's a cross between Jordan Lyle and Mark Fletcher. He's kind of in between. Like he's thick, a little thicker than Lyle was at this point, but he can catch, he can block. So he's a first, second, and third down running back. And in today's game, Alex, you know, that's very, very important.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm old school here, but like the first guy, if they do get hands on him, they better get their shoulder pads in his rib cage too. He's not going to come down with arm tackles. He's got pretty good speed, but he's just very strong, and his contact balance is excellent. This is the kind of back you need to win at an elite level against SEC teams in the playoffs or Penn State or Notre Dame or whatever. This is a guy that can carry the mail for you. I think Notre Dame and all these other schools that recruit him are going to regret not getting him. Like at one point, I don't know if it was Florida, Notre Dame, somebody else went at one point. Maybe it was Clemson. I can't remember.
I think it was Clemson. Yeah.
Like Clemson, again, like culture, they know what they're looking for. When Clemson wants a player out of your back, that's a good sign. They don't miss very much. Javion would have fit in well with that program. So I think they're going to all regret it. I think he's going to play very, very early at Miami, and I think he'll end up being at least a 1, if not a 2-year starter for the Canes and have an opportunity to play in the NFL.
Oh, when we come back, I know you guys remember Brian already picked against Miami, but I want his keys for the Hurricanes to get it done on Sunday and how many games he thinks Miami's going to win this year. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Hey, Locked On Canes fans, you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen. It's another big moment for the Locked On Network. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts like me and like Brian Smith. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season. And if you missed it last night, you can still watch it. Every Thursday throughout the season, it is available only on Fire TV. All right, we got the recruiting overlord, Brian Smith, with us, host of The Portal and host of Locked On Seminoles. All right, so Brian, if Miami can pull out the victory on Sunday, what would that look like? What has to happen? Who's got to step up?
I think Elijah Lofton and the players in the middle of the field for the Miami offense, tight ends, running backs. I said this on multiple shows, and I'm not picking on linebackers in general, but both sides of the ball, they both have very good linebackers, proven players. But how many of them are going to cover like Jordan Lyle out of the backfield or Jeremiah Love out of the backfield? Big plays in the passing game to the running backs, tight ends. And I think Lofton for the Canes could be the X factor. I really don't think Notre Dame can cover him, and I really doubt anybody else does either. So they need to find a way to scheme that up. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is, can Miami's wide receivers win one-on-one battles against Notre Dame's elite secondary? I have no idea. I like the 2 transfers. I think they're underrated, but we need to see the younger guys. I don't know which ones it will be. Maybe it's JoJo, maybe it's Malachi, maybe it's Chance, whatever. One of those guys has got to hit not just a few catches for first downs, but they got to hit a 50-yarder or something like that. And they certainly have the physical tools to do it. Now, do they have the chemistry and the faith in each other between Carson Beck and those players to make it happen? And finally, I don't know if you've heard much or you've covered much on this, but first games of the year, special teams. Notre Dame was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Miami couldn't cover me on a kickoff. They were 122nd. I mean, that should never happen in Miami, by the way. With the athletes they had, that's inexcusable. But do they, is it a fake punt? Is it a punt return? I don't know. Who's going to be the punt returner for the Canes this year, Alex? Which guys are going to be?
Yeah, the punt return, I could see it being possibly Keontae Scott. I mean, my real answer, Brian, is I don't know, because Miami doesn't put out depth charts midweek like some other teams do. So I mean, obviously we all know Keelan Marion's going to be the kickoff returner. I mean, I don't know if they're going to double him up on punts. Keontae Scott is someone who did that a lot at Auburn, so I expect he may be the guy.
Okay. Yeah, he's a good athlete. They need to do better than what Notre Dame did to other teams last year. They won games because of special teams. Miami cannot allow that to happen. Yeah. And I'm going one up here. When you and I were growing up, like Miami always had somebody as a kick or punt return guy in big games that made a play, or they would block a punt or whatever. They need to turn the tables against Notre Dame. Why not? It's first game. You've had it a freaking entire offseason to fix it, make it happen. I think those are the areas that are most important. So big plays, brother. That's the key overall. Middle of the field, those receivers, and then the punt and kick game.
So for the season overall, Brian, Miami, their over-under on FanDuel is 9.5 wins. Most predictions have them facing Clemson in the ACC championship game.
Right.
And if they get to that championship game for the conference, there's more than likely going to sneak into that college football playoff, sneak in at the very least. I think this is college football playoff or bust for them this year. If Miami, God forbid, loses on Sunday, I'll probably still pick them to win 10 games this year. If they win on Sunday, I'm thinking they can have maybe an 11-1 type of regular season. How do you look at the regular season coming up, and do you think Miami gets into the playoff?
I think that they're going to be a team that probably wins at least one game that you didn't necessarily think and loses at least one. That's my biggest bugaboo. From every media member that I've spoken with, their biggest concern isn't Notre Dame or Florida. Most think they'll win at least one of those. So that's certainly feasible. They're more worried about the Georgia Tech level teams. And that's been what's killed for 15, 20 years. So, is it Georgia Tech? Is it Syracuse or whatever team it is? They can't avoid the letdown games. If they don't have those, they should, even if they lost to Notre Dame and they lost to Florida, they should still, did they play Clemson in the regular season?
Nope. And they don't play Georgia Tech either, thank goodness. Because
so, I mean, there's not another team besides those two, not picking on the ACC here, but those are the only two teams on the regular season slate that have the same level of talent that they do. Yeah. But I still think they'll end up at 9-3 because they got to prove it to me in those weird games. Like they'll be favored by 2 touchdowns and lay an egg. I need to see it. But it starts with Notre Dame game, regardless win or lose. They've got to play more consistent football and just not have boneheaded plays where they shoot themselves in the foot. That's been their bugaboo. The Syracuse game last year being the obvious one, but like they need to be consistent. And if they do, you get into the ACC title game, I think they might have more raw talent than Clemson. And it wouldn't shock me if Clemson had the better regular season record and Miami won if they get to that point, if they beat Clemson in the title game.
Oh, well said as always. You want to make sure you follow Brian Smith on X, 2 different spots to find him at FB_Scout_Florida, at LO_the Portal. He's the host of the awesome Portal Pod. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you also, as mentioned, check out the Locked On College Football Kickoff Show. It was really awesome. It's going to be a weekly thing. We'll talk to you all again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.